Powell was a Vietnam vet. Colin Powell was a Vietnam vet. Colin Powell is one that helped, lie the United States government into the Iraq War, which resulted in 1 million dead. So the parallels are just too big to ignore. Just the body counts. 4 million dead in Vietnam, 1 million dead in Iraq. Both were wars of empire and conquest, hegemony and capitalism. Now, I'd heard that Colin Powell had covered up the My Lai Massacre. He wasn't just a vet, but he covered up the My Lai Massacre. Holy fucking shit, the My Lai Massacre. Well, I'll get into that in just a second. First, I want to give a shout out to Spar and Brawl. Spar and Brawl. They are dropping mind-blowing common sense. They're dropping mind-blowing common sense. And Free Sam. Free Sam. So, outside perspective in the post-truth era, it's nice to get some mind-blowing common sense. Okay, the My Lai Massacre. This is one of the worst atrocities that we know about in America. This was exposed, and during the time, there's two main names that I think of when I think about the My Lai Massacre. There's the hero, Hugh Thompson. Hugh Thompson Jr., he's the hero versus the evil villain versus the wicked psychopath motherfucking William Calley. So William Calley is the villain, and Hugh Thompson is the hero. So what happened to these two gentlemen, William Calley and Hugh Thompson? Well, the reason why I think about these two main names is because Hugh Thompson, the hero, gets shitted on, and then William Calley gets a slap on the wrist. So Tom Glenn, some man named Tom Glenn, he said that the Vietnam War was bad. There was something going on in the Vietnam War that was bad, so they're investigating. Let's see here. There's a man named Tom Glenn, and he said that the Vietnam War was going bad. Colin Powell investigated that claim, and then he came back later and said, no, in fact, that the U.S. and the Vietnamese people were getting along famously. There's problems in Vietnam? Colin Powell investigated, found no problems whatsoever. So, in a very small way, Colin Powell helped to cover up the My Lai Massacre. He wasn't the main guy. He wasn't the main guy. But Colin Powell's going to even say that he didn't know shit about the My Lai Massacre up until 1970. This shit happened in 1978 or 68. Right, 1968? I don't know, but, he didn't know about it for a year or two later when it was in his division. He was like, he wasn't the major person, but he did cover it up a little bit with that Tom Glenn. Tom Glenn said, hey, check this shit out. Colin Powell said, okay, no problems. What do you mean? Vietnam's going fucking great. Now, something else had happened. William D. Sheehan had investigated the My Lai Massacre, and he investigated Colin Powell. So that means he asked Colin Powell a number of questions, right? We're supposed to believe that Colin Powell didn't know shit about the My Lai Massacre, but William D. Sheehan, one of the main investigators, asked Colin Powell a bunch of questions, but apparently the My Lai Massacre, that never came up, never a rumor, nothing, whatsoever. Get the fuck out of here. The My Lai Massacre was insanity. It was absolute pandemonium. I'll talk about later the specific details, but it happened in March 16th, 1968. So Colin Powell's like a leader. He's in the leadership in the same division where William Calley killed, 347 people? 347 up to 504. So we don't even know how many specific, was it 347, was it 504? They killed 450, give or take 100. So I feel like Colin Powell's fucking lying. He didn't know shit about the My Lai Massacre. Bullshit. He investigated some claims about the Vietnam War not going well, and he, found out that actually America and the Vietnamese people are getting along famously. So Colin Powell, ultimately, he wasn't a major person to cover up the My Lai Massacre. I don't even know who that person would be. Maybe Medina, Captain Medina. But I would say William Calley. William Calley probably was the biggest one to cover up. But Colin Powell, He did cover it up, and the question is, did he cover it up a little bit or a lot? Pretending the shit didn't happen? I mean, he covered it up a lot, but then what was his influence at the time? So, ultimately, Colin Powell is part of a peculiar institution and a division that covered up the My Lai massacre, so he is responsible somewhat. William Calley killed hundreds of innocent people, men, women, old people in a Vietnamese village. No soldiers, no Viet Cong. And the My Lai massacre actually points out the problem with the Vietnam War was this is how, the Viet Cong was created. This was nation building. We helped put Ho Chi Minh, we made Ho Chi Minh a goddamn legend. So 4 million killed in Vietnam, 1 million killed in Iraq. For empire, for capitalism, for hegemony. The lesson of the My Lai massacre is that when you see, if you're a soldier, I don't think the lesson of the My Lai massacre is very instructive. In fact, the lesson of the My Lai massacre is to keep your mouth shut. Your job is to do and die, not to question why. Shut the fuck up, American soldier. But you would think we love the troops so goddamn much that when one of the troops say some shit's going down, the lesson of the My Lai massacre, when you see all the blood and slaughter, when you see the rapes and the murders of innocents, the slaughter of innocents of biblical proportions, when you see all that evil, what do? If you're an American soldier, you're just supposed to shut up, not question why. You're supposed to just do and die. So do you speak up and do the right thing or not? Look what happened to Julian Assange. Look what happened to Edward Snowden. Look what happened to Chelsea Manning. Hugh Thompson saved the Vietnamese lives. He put his life and rank on the line to save the Vietnamese people. Hugh Thompson believed in the rhetoric. America is good. We're winning hearts and minds. Nixon and Kissinger, however, they did not believe in their own bullshit. Nor did JFK, who escalated the Vietnam War substantially. So Hugh Thompson, he's a hero. He's branded a heretic. He took abuse from the public and the press. 26 U.S. soldiers are going to get charged with killing 347 to 504 Vietnamese souls. But only one served any kind of sentence, and that was William Calley. So William Calley, the white male who oversaw the mass slaughter of the innocents, participated in the bloodshed. There's a story where he piled a bunch of 70 to 80 kids in a ditch, and while Hugh Thompson is saying, what the hell is going on here? They're sitting there saying, mind your own business, and they're still shooting. So what happened to this William fucking Calley, Mr. Bloody Hands, the executioner of over 500, probably 300 to 500 Vietnamese souls? He was given a life sentence, William Calley was, but he only had to serve 3.5 years of house arrest. 3.5 years of house arrest. What? I gotta stay in my house for how long? 3.5 years? That's crazy. Why would you... Oh, because the 347 innocent to 504... 504. I mean, that's a sixth of a 9/11. 500 people killed that did nothing to nobody? How's that not murder times... How's that not serial killing? How is that not murder times 500? William Calley, when he killed those 80 children in a ditch, they didn't just use machine guns. They used knives and bayonets and grenades and small arms fire. And then recently you had the Marines, right? We just got out of Afghanistan, and they fired a guy for telling the truth. Unfucking believable. The Marines, the premier, my God. So lose a war, nobody does, nobody gets fired. Lose a fucking war, nobody gets fired. But criticize, you know, a guy for saying obvious shit about the Bagram Air Base, to fire the guy for saying some obvious shit about the Afghanistan withdrawal. None of the generals, none of the top brass, but this regular Joe. We all love the troops. We all love the troops. Now, they say that you're not supposed to question why, but to do and die, but why? The Nuremberg principles, Nazi Germany, that's, if you're ordered to commit crimes in war, you got a duty to say no. Because after the war, you're going to get hung. And also, what about your conscience? And it seems like if some evil motherfucker gives some person that has no constitution in order to do some bad shit, it's like giving them permission. So the Nuremberg principle says, you know, it's not just to do and die, and it's not to not question. You're supposed to question why. Kill a bunch of innocents. Have a sick, disgusting mass slaughter of innocents of biblical proportions. I mean, what would you have done, America, if you were part of the My Lai Massacre? Would you have been part of William Calley just shooting up a fucking storm? Because that's the system. That's the conservative perspective, right? That was Nixon and Kissinger. We're in Vietnam to occupy them. And the way that we're saying that we're winning the war was by body counts. So, when it comes to what kind of person would you be, what I would like for you to be, what I'd like for all of us to be, let's not be a fucking William Calley. It's time to save the people. Now, Hugh Thompson, he, you know, confronts them. He comes up across a 20-year-old woman who'd already got shot in the chest, was near death. Some Captain Medina goes over there and kicks the woman and then kills her, finishes her off right in front of him. Right in front of him. And so what Hugh Thompson did was he took his helicopter. He was a helicopter pilot, and he parked his helicopter in between the U.S. troops who were firing on the innocents. And the innocents, he was able to save like a dozen people. I don't know the specific. There's a couple names. We know the woman, the 20-year-old woman who was shot and killed. We know her name. And then we also know the name of, there was a 5-year-old boy that, okay, so they save a dozen, and then he had no fuel, so he had to go miles to go get some fuel. So he saved a dozen Vietnamese people, and as he's leaving, he saw another pile of bodies, mutilated bodies, and they dug through it, and they found a 5-year-old boy who was still alive. So we got his name, too. So that's what Hugh Thompson did. Then he comes back to America. He got a Purple Heart. The Vietnamese people gave him an award, and then, you know, the U.S. government rushed to give him an award at the same time, like 50 years later. But at the time, he was vilified. He was getting death threats. He had animal carcasses just thrown on his porch. There was one congressman, a Democrat, that had said that the only person that should be charged in the My Lai Massacre is Hugh Thompson. He pointed his gun at U.S. troops. He pointed his gun at U.S. troops. So come on, America, let's be Hugh Thompsons. Let's be more. We need more Hugh Thompsons, less William Calleys. If it's time to save the people, it's time to save the people. William Calley's killing. Fuck that shit. It's time to be a Hugh Thompson. It's time to stand up for what's right and good and just and honest and peaceful and decent. And it's time to be a Jane Fonda. It's time to be a Muhammad Ali. It's time to be a Benazir Bhutto. It's time to be a Tecumseh. Don't be a William Calley, nor a goddamn Colin Powell, nor a goddamn